and working in the area of the gender studies. Madam is specialized in the gender study, different type of the gender gap and gender related issues Madam is dealing. So Madam published many research paper and many PhDs she produced. So Madam, welcome you in today this FIP program of fifth FIP program of the HRDC Mizoram University, and I welcome you. With me, we have Professor Bhartendu Singh, who is a co-coordinator of this fifth FIP program. Basically, Professor Bhartendu sir belong to the Department of Commerce of the Mizoram University, and this FIP he is looking. So, with this brief introduction, Madam, welcome you in the this program, and now I am handing over the session to you for your presentation, Madam.
A very good morning to all of you. First of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Professor Manoj Kumar Verma ji, Deputy Director UGC HRDC Mizoram University, and Dr. Bhartendu Singh ji, co-coordinator of today's program, or you may say co-coordinator of the fifth induction program, for giving me an opportunity to be part of the faculty induction program of the university. So really, I feel happy to interact with you all and to express my views on the topic of contemporary relevance. My today's topic is gender and caste intersectionality in the Indian context. So friends, I want to make it clear first that today I'll explain gender and caste intersectionality with a special reference to Dalit women in India. So friends, I'll try my best to give justice to the topic. So the title of my today's lecture is composed of three important components, or rather concepts. And these are first, gender, second, caste, and third, intersectionality. And I'll clarify all these conceptual categories first, and then I'll try to give an understanding of the term patriarchy, Dalit, and Dalit women, and then I'll explain the topic in totality. So I think as far as the concept of gender is concerned, I think you all might be fully familiar with the concept of gender. Because Professor Verma has already told me that one class has already been held on the topic gender. So I'm not going to explain it in detail, very briefly. In fact, concisely and precisely, I'll give an outline of the concept of gender. Actually, gender is relatively a new concept, and it refers to the socio-cultural definition of men and women. And basically, gender is the way through which societies distinguish men and women and assign them different attributes, behavior patterns, expectations, roles, rights, and responsibilities. And it is also used as an analytical tool to understand social realities with respect to women and men. So friends, we all know that nature makes us biologically male or female, but society makes us socially feminine and masculine. And it is gender and society which determine the appearance, attitudes, behaviors, roles, responsibilities, rights, access and control over resources, etc., of men and women. And one more thing, we must understand that gender issues are not only women's issues alone. We need to understand that femininity does not exist in isolation from masculinity. Or we may say that the image and power of one determines the image and power of the other. And women can be considered inferior only if men are considered superior. So I feel men and notion of masculinity need to be understood because of some reasons. Boys and men also suffer from the stereotyping that already exists in patriarchal culture. It seems there is some technical problem. My video was paused. So, am I audible to you all?
Yeah, madam, you are audible. Sometimes your
Okay.
video is not, now your video is not coming.
Yeah, it seems there is some technical, means internet connectivity issue.
Maybe.
But it's okay. I'm trying to
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, now
yeah.
it came, madam.
Okay, thank you. So I was saying that boys and men also suffer from the stereotyping that already exists in patriarchal culture. Um, Sylvia Volvoy, a famous feminist, she has written in her book Theorizing Patriarchy, and she defines patriarchy as a system of social structures and practices in which men dominate, oppress, and exploit women. So here it is important to understand patriarchy as a system, because this helps us to reject the notion of biological determinism. So the notion of gender can be expressed in another way. Gender is a social construct and a matter of culture, and it varies from family to family and culture to culture. And it also refers to norms, values, customs, and practices by which men and women are socially classified into masculine and feminine. So I think the concept of gender is clear now. And on the basis of this much understanding of gender and patriarchy, I think we can now proceed further to trace the origin and features of the caste system before dealing with the term Dalit and Dalit women. The caste system is probably the longest surviving hierarchical system in existence in the world today. So its origin can be traced back from Varna system in the Rigvedic phase, which was essentially a retention of class differentiation. जैसा कि पुरुष सूक्त में वर्णित है, it is mentioned in the Purush Sukta, Chaturvarnam Maya Shrishtam Gun Karma Vibhagasha. It means Purush Sukta means it's a section of hymns of Rig Veda, and it says God has created 4 varnas on the basis of attributes and deeds. यानी ईश्वर ने चारों वर्णों की रचना की है गुण और कर्म के आधार पर, और ये वर्ण है ब्राह्मण, द प्रीस्टली कास्ट, क्षत्रिय, वॉरियर कास्ट, वैश्य, traders and artisans, and the last one Shudras, who rendered services to all these 3 varnas. So in this way, Indian society was stratified into 4 varnas, but Shudras were at the bottom. And there is no doubt that varna system had autonomous and egalitarian character to a large extent. But later on, in due course of time, the basis of differentiation of varna system, which were quality and deeds of an individual, were changed into birth. And it is started to determine by birth and it was sustained in the form of caste, which was an inegalitarian and highly hierarchical system. So friends, for having a crystal clear understanding of the hierarchical, inequitous, inegalitarian, and highly differentiated caste system, I want to quote here Andre Bette, quote unquote. Instead of dispersed inequalities, we find in caste a system of accumulative inequalities. Point to be noted. It is a system of accumulative inequalities where social and political power is concentrated into the hands of the some group. And not only that, through some features, the caste system tries to control women's sexuality, mobility, and freedom. And we may question, suddenly a question arises, which features are responsible for controlling women's sexuality, mobility, and freedom? So friends, these features of caste systems are, first, stereotypical gender division of labor, and second, endogamous marriage. So now we need to know who Dalits are. What is their status in society? Friends, in my research paper, I have written a research paper which was published in Asian Journal of Women's Studies. The title of my paper is Dalit Women's Quest for Justice, Cases from India and Bangladesh. So I have explained in this paper Dalit and Dalit women in detail, and publisher of this paper was Routledge and Twiller and Francis. And my another paper published in the International Journal of Social Science and Development Policy, and title of the paper is The Dialectic of Modernity and Patriarchy, Understanding the Plight of Dalit Women in India. You may refer it for having an understanding of the status of Dalits and Dalit women. So there are so many hypotheses regarding the origin and passage of untouchables. One plausible and rational hypothesis is that Dalits are descendants of pre-Aryan Indians. And this is the reason they found no place in the Varna system, which is considered as a post-Aryan creation. So in fact, the word Dalit is not new. There are a number of nomenclatures which have been used for Dalits in Indian society at different points of time. For example, Chandals, Achuts means untouchables, Shudras, depressed classes, Harijans, scheduled castes, etc. And generally in India, it has been used in two senses. One, referring to the erstwhile untouchable caste, and the other to a broader category of all oppressed people. The Indian social reformer, the champion of social justice, Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar, chose the term broken man as the English translation of the word Dalit to refer to the original ancestors of erstwhile untouchable castes. And Dalit Panthers, the youth activists from Dalit community, revived the term in their 1973 manifesto, and they explained its reference to include scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, the landless and poor peasants, women, and all those who are exploited politically, economically, and in the name of religion. So, in current discourse, the word Dalit has been used to indicate only the erstwhile untouchable caste, connoting a community as well as an identity. So the word Dalit is basically turning the negative connotation of being untouchable into a confrontational identity. And that is conscious of their operations and seek to assert and fight for equality and justice. So nowadays, Dalits are transforming themselves from stigmatized subjects into citizens. But the term Dalit I'm using today, referring to only the erstwhile untouchables. In India, the origin of Dalits, including the practice of treating them as untouchables, is traced to the socially given caste system. And the caste system is characterized by a rigidly hierarchical organization of society. And castes are defined on the basis of the notion of purity and pollution. Pure being superior in status and impure being inferior. So in this social order, there are people who are viewed as ritually, socially, completely impure, and they are not considered as a part of the Varna system or caste system, and they are treated as outcasts or untouchables as they are considered to be polluting. The so-called untouchable, I'm so sorry. Hello, sir. Good morning, sir. Sir, I'm in a lecture, so I'll call you back after 2 hours. Thank you for calling me. I'm so sorry for the interruption. So I was telling the so-called untouchable engaged in menial work, which was considered polluting. They were excluded from enjoying any social, economic, cultural, civil, and political rights. And socially, they were considered most inferior economically. They are not allowed to possess wealth, and politically, they were given no power in decision making. Means they were not allowed to politically participate in the decision making process. And culturally, they were kept at a distance. So sometimes they were not allowed to take water from wells used by others, and they were not even permitted to eat with others. And they suffered from extreme deprivations and indignities in the society. And they continue to be the most exploited, excluded, and marginalized section of society. So in this context, I want to quote Professor Vivek Kumar excerpts, which he mentioned in his research paper, Locating Dalit Women in Indian Caste System, Media and Women's Movement. The paper was published in the journal Social Change, quote unquote. Caste-based prejudices and discrimination against Dalits are a social fact. So now, before understanding the plight of women in general and Dalit women in particular, we must understand the concept of intersectionality, because we have already discussed what is gender, what is the meaning of Dalit and Dalit women. So now we should come to the intersectionality. So first of all, I think we need to define intersectionality first. So intersectional approaches emerge from feminist scholarship, and which recognize that there were some exclusive differences among women and men rather than simple differences between them. And the term intersectionality was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989 in her paper, Demarginalizing the Intersection of Race and Sex, a Black Feminist Critique of Anti-Discrimination Doctrine, Feminist Theory, and Anti-Racist Politics. It was a very good paper, a seminal work done by Kimberly Crenshaw. And Crenshaw, as well as other feminist scholars, argued that gender, race, and class are interconnected as intersecting operations, though race, class, and gender have been the traditional troika of intersectional studies. But usually we take a broad approach and also include the intersection of any social statuses, including religion, sexuality, ethnicity, etc. So, dear friends, to understand intersectionality or overlapping nature of identity markers or intersectional nature of multiple identities, first of all, we must understand about these identity markers first, which create multiple identities of a person. I want to tell you that we carry so many identities, or we can say multiple identities at the same point of time. And these multiple identities not only influence our experiences, but these make us who we are. So when it comes to who we are, then there is not just only one part of our personality or identity defines it, but our all identities define our personality in totality, which are intersectional in nature. For example, I'm not just a, a faculty, a daughter, a sister, a wife, a painter, a writer, or a cook, and so on and so forth. I can carry all these identities at a same point of time. And all my identities work together to make my personality unique. And it also defines who am I. So friends, intersectional theory or intersectionality works on the same principle. In intersectionality, there are multiple overlapping identities like gender, class, religion, ethnicity, race, occupation, and particularly in the context of India, it's caste-based identity. So our experiences associated with our multiple identities make us who we are. Unfortunately, some of the identity markers we have, like gender or racial or ethnic or class identity or religious or caste identity, etc., can lead to oppression of a person or a group of persons. An intersectionality approach works to explore how these oppression overlaps. So markers of identity like gender or caste or class don't exist separately or exclusively. We cannot compartmentalize these multiple identities of a person at a point of time. And these multiple identities of a particular person cannot be segregated in airtight compartments. But one thing is clear, that they all overlap or interconnect when it comes to operation and power. So in a nutshell, we can say all of us live complex lives. And what that means, it means we are actually living at the intersection of overlapping systems of privilege and operation. And I must say that if we fail to acknowledge and understand this complexity, we would never be able to acknowledge or understand the reality of the status of women in particular and Dalit women's status in general in Indian society. So now the question is, when does intersectionality happen? So friends, intersectionality happens in the society anytime a person has multiple forces of discrimination working against them. Therefore, this can happen in all different types of situations. For example, as we know, women have a secondary status than men in Indian society. But overlapping of multiple identities is worsening its status and creating further disadvantages. Therefore, it can be held, we can say that women are not a homogeneous or monolithic group. And it has been an established fact in the feminism too, that all identity markers which a woman carries at a certain point of time cannot be mutually exclusive. Rather, they intersect to create a unique experience of discrimination and disadvantage. In other words, we can say the women who are united on the basis of systemic overlapping patriarchies are nevertheless simultaneously divided along other lines. And three such divisions are appropriate to my argument, and these are class, caste, and patriarchal power. So, friends, I admit here that Dalit women are very good example of caste, class, and gender intersectionality. In this context, I want to tell you about the views of Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia. I have written a paper which was published in Economic and Political Weekly, and the title of that paper is Locating Lohia in Feminist Theory. So I explained the inseparability, the inseparability of caste and gender in Lohia's conceptualization is very important to women's issues in the Indian context. He affirms that the two segregations of caste and gender are primarily responsible for the decline of spirit of India. And he finds that Indian women suffer most due to two structural formations, and these are patriarchy or male domination, and second, the caste system. And Indian women are doubly deprived, dominated, and marginalized as the caste system and patriarchy are closely interlinked. Norms of purity and pollution form the cultural basis of birth-based differential valuation of different caste groups and their hierarchy in the caste system, which also puts certain castes in the category of untouchables. Therefore, we can say in India, Dalit women are experiencing their own type of discrimination and disadvantages, which are different from the issues faced by all women in general or Dalit women, Dalit community in particular. So, as per data Census Commissioner of India 2011, it is worth noting that Dalit women constitute a significant proportion of India's population. India has a total population of 1.2 billion. Now, and of which the Dalits or scheduled castes constitute only 16%. So Dalit women comprise about 8% of India's population, and which comes to about 128 million. So in the case of higher education, on the basis of facts and figures, we can say that there is prevalence of gender gap in gross enrollment ratio across broad caste categories in higher education. Regarding the scheduled caste, gender gap in GER, means gross enrollment ratio at higher education level, has significantly declined from about 7% in 1993-94 to 3.7% only in 2007-8. But in general, women belonging to the Dalit communities continue to be the most backward, exploited, oppressed, and dominated, socially, economically, and politically because of the intersecting caste, class, and gender-based domination over them. And like Dalit men, they face caste, class-based discrimination by others in society. But they are further discriminated, exploited, and oppressed socially, economically, politically, and culturally because of their gender. So here, like socially, they are being treated inferior to men. Economically, they receive lower wages than men. And politically, they have low political participation on the basis of gender. And this is reinforced both by people of other castes and communities and also by men belonging to their own caste and communities. Here, I want to substantiate my argument by a statement of Vedha Nayagi, a feminist activist, who states that the condition of Dalit women is very pathetic and they face multiple oppressions and are prone to the brutality of landowners and other upper caste persons. And violence affects them physically and mentally. So indeed, the overlapping domination of caste, class, and patriarchy operates to the highest degree, which makes Dalit women Dalit among Dalits, and that is downtrodden among downtrodden, as Gail Omvedt describes them. And they continue to be the worst sufferers in society as they face most acute exploitation, subordination, and exclusion on the basis of caste, class, and gender. So friends, there are so many sociologists and feminist scholars and feminist activists whose work is based on intersectionality approach while understanding the plight of Indian women. I want to take names of a few among them like Leela Dubey, Ruth Manorma, Sharmila Rege, Annie Namla, Veena Das, Gail Omvedt, etc. The sociologist Leela Dubey, in her work, Comparative Perspectives on Gender in South and Southeast Asia, also takes on the subject of caste and women. And she has emphasized how women's roles are instrumental in maintaining or changing caste relations. She pointed out that through many crucial ways, the family or household becomes the site for reproducing caste-based forms of exclusion, hierarchy, and interdependence rather than in the larger jati or caste unit. So in a particular family or household, we see three distinct overlapping spheres where caste differences are vital. These are first, occupation, second, food and ritual practices, and finally third, marriage and sexuality. So here my special concern is to unfold the story pertaining to the situation of Dalit women and their alienation from Indian society. Now, come to the caste and gender question. When did it become the part of academic discourses? I want to give a few examples in this regard. Caste and women are the most difficult discussion and debate in the contemporary discourse. And from 1990s, the question of caste and women has made explicit appearances in the academic discourse. Even though champions of social justice, social reformers, and leaders like Phule, Periyar, and Ambedkar had significantly articulated the question of gender in their attack on the caste system, which has made a solid ground or the backdrop for foundations of feminist thinking and practice, and which determine the future directions of the feminist activism and scholarship. Ruth Manorma, a longtime activist and one of the founders of National Federation of Dalit Women, NFDW, has explained Dalit women as downtrodden, and she also affirms that the Dalit culture could not remain immune to the larger patriarchal system. And this is the reason why Dalit women have suffered many times over. And in her article, Writing Caste, Writing Gender, Dalit Women Testimonies, Sharmila Rege explicitly interrogated the issue of caste and gender in Indian society in general and in Maharashtra in particular. She said that there is a need for a Brahmanical perspective in the women's study, which can address the acute dilemmas of subalterns and savarnas. We can say thinking on caste and gender has been developing in different domains within the field of activist scholarship and within social science discipline. Similarly, Annie Namla, in her writing, Dalit Women, the Conflict and Dilemma, explains the reasons for the difference of Dalit women. And she said, Dalit women are different from other women, not because of their separate identity, but because of the cumulative effects of caste, class, and gender in their lives. And apart from these facts, it is also observed that sexual purity of women is linked with the purity of the caste. And the belief is that it is through women and not men that the purity of caste or community is ensured and preserved, and women are carrying the burden of purity of caste also. Veena Das, she has analyzed it and said that women are literally seen as a point of entrance or as gateways to the caste system. If men of ritually low status got sexual access to women of higher status, then not only the purity of women, but that of the entire group or caste would be at stake. And so on the basis of this logic, we can say main threat to the purity of the groups came from female sexuality. Therefore, then patriarchal institutions started to guard and control women's sexuality. So friends, on the basis of all these arguments, we must admit the fact that a large number of Dalit women continue to remain extremely poor and a very marginalized section of society in India. And their backwardness is reflected in their literacy rate, which is about 8%, much lower than that of general category of women, as well as about 18% less than that of Dalit men. And general category, as we all know, is an administrative category which refers to the population other than scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. As per 2011 census data, 56.5% Dalit women are literates, whereas 64.6% general category women are literates. So there is a gap of about 8% in their literacy rate as compared to general category women. And there are so many other indicators also, like health and violence against them, which indicate their vulnerability and pathetic condition in the society. In fact, I can say that Dalit women have not benefited much from government welfare programs, and their specific problems and concerns remain submerged and invisible, both in the women's movements and Dalit movements. And as a result, mobilizations of Dalit women started as a separate autonomous stream very clearly since the 1990s. And several autonomous organizations of Dalit women have emerged, which interrogates the issues of intersectionality of Dalit women in Indian society. And due to which Dalit women have started speaking differently, that is, with a greater focus on their problems and concerns. Here I want to share with you a case of Dalit Women Organization of India, और जो कि इंटरसेक्शनैलिटी अप्रोच पर काम करती है एंड जिसका आइडियोलॉजिकल बेस इंटरसेक्शनैलिटी अप्रोच है. The name of this Dalit women organization is DMS, Dalit Mahila Samiti. Or Dalit Mahila Samiti is an organization of Dalit women working in the Bundelkhand region of Uttar Pradesh. And the state of Uttar Pradesh, as we all know, has a total population of approximately 190 million. And it is the most populous state in India. And Dalits constitute about 20% of the population of the state. And with Dalit women as its core concern, Dalit Mahila Samiti was formally set up in 2003 in Uttar Pradesh on the initiative of a voluntary organization, Vanangana, and whose staff had sound grounding in feminist thinking and organizing at the ground level. So DMS, yani Dalit Mahila Samiti, has created Dalit women's bodies at the level of village clusters for conducting its activities. And it has a Dalit feminist ideological thrust in its perspectives and programs, and it adopts the feminist intersectionality perspective in understanding and explaining the plight of Dalit women. And it does not believe that the condition of all women in India is same and that they all suffer from similar deprivations and oppressions. So it's view the condition of Dalit women as different from both women in general and Dalits in particular. There is the intersection of caste, class, and gender, which determines their status, and their sufferings are threefold. As they are discriminated, exploited, oppressed, and marginalized just because of their caste, class, and gender. Hence, they have to confront and struggle not only against gender-based discrimination, but also those of caste and class-based operations for attaining equality, dignity, honor, and social justice. So, in line with its ideological thrust, DMS has set specific goals for itself, which include, number one, to change caste equations in the area or region of their work. And number two, to promote the leadership of local women. Three, to protest against all forms of violence against women and men. And four, to negotiate their terms with members of the upper caste during elections, and fifth, to ensure the benefits of government schemes reach all eligible Dalits. And its strategy from the beginning, DMS has highlighted Dalit identity in the wider struggle for dignity and justice. And for this, it initiated a series of dialogues at the community level in villages to understand the linkages between Dalit women's struggle for justice and life of dignity. And the effort was also to understand the larger social inequalities in which the caste system, its um, along with its notion of untouchability, has generated conditions of indignity and injustice. And these dialogues have led to the creation of Dalit consciousness and Dalit feminist consciousness. And this has helped women members to develop their abilities and undertake leadership roles. As a result, women have now raised their issues at community or cluster level meetings of DMS. And friends, I conducted an interview with the office bearers of DMS at its Lucknow office. And as a result, I found that DMS is engaged in fourfold activities. And what are these? First, it is involved in a struggle or mobilization of Dalit women against the practice of untouchability by raising their consciousness. And for this, DMS organized play performances like Juthan in villages questioning untouchability. And it encourages its women members to work towards ending this practice, and it gives them write up about the progressive thought and ideas of social reformers such as Dr. Ambedkar, Jyotiba Phule, Savitribai Phule, and it also seeks support of men to become Sathidars. Sathidars are support givers, not members. And second, DMS works to change practices at the individual and household levels, as it emphasizes drinking water and eating together to end ideas of purity and pollution. Many Dalit dais, birth attendants, refuse to discard the placenta and cut the umbilical cord, which is considered impure work. And third, DMS works for ensuring justice for the Dalit community in the state of Uttar Pradesh. For instance, in 2003, a Dalit called a Dalit was murdered, and DMS extended its support and mobilized people to get the case registered and seek compensation for the burnt house of the Dalit. And fourth, DMS works for ending violence against women also, and it discusses cases of violence against women, understands the intricacies, and extends its support to the victims. And dear friends, due to its active and assertive engagement, DMS has had significant achievement to its credit. They became successful in raising consciousness among Dalit women, and they also became successful in mobilizing and organizing people to work towards ending socially discriminatory norms, attitudes, practices towards Dalits such as untouchability. And they also became successful in mobilizing and organizing Dalit women to confront oppression. So they got success in initiating and consolidating the separate assertion identity of the Dalit women to uplift their status in society. So on the basis of these facts, it emerges that the Dalit Mahila Samiti hold Dalit feminist perspective, and its vision and actions are guided by the intersectionality perspective in feminist theory. And finally, it can be concluded that Dalit women's organizations need further strengthening. The challenges before them are for further strengthening of their networks nationally and making more systematic efforts to build networks internationally, especially in South Asian region, specifically to enhance their status. So with this note and perspective now, I conclude my today's lecture and thank you for your patience listening. Thank you very much. Professor Verma?
Yeah, madam. So, madam, thank you so much, madam, for your very informative and detailed lecture on the gender and especially highlighting the SC/ST community. With on behalf of the HRDC Mizoram University, madam, thank you so much. My office will contact you soon. After 1 week, they will contact you and they will ask you some detail to for your honorarium and your certificate. So with this, thank you so much, madam. We will be in touch.
Sir.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
So, dear participant, the now this lecture little early we finished. So please wait 11.